Welcome back to the Gun Dungeon, guys. What we're about to do today could be somewhat controversial. So before we begin, I want it to be clear that nothing I'm about to say, nothing I'm about to do should be construed as advice, an interpretation of the laws, or the possible consequences that could come from making your own decisions. So today we're going to be talking about hand loads versus factory loads, but it's going to be in a little bit different context than what we're normally used to. This is going to be in the context of self-defense ammunition and carrying that self-defense ammunition. As many people know, there are a lot of bullet types that are aimed towards a defensive manner available as just the projectiles for reloaders. I happen to have a couple different boxes of ammo and was able to get the same bullets that are loaded in that factory ammunition. I have 9mm 124 grain gold dots in factory configuration and in a hand loaded configuration. I also have 380 XTP loads in a factory configuration and a hand load configuration. Now, when I loaded this ammo, and you're just going to have to take my word for it, I loaded this ammo somewhat what you would consider on the hotter end of the spectrum, using a powder that gave me a little bit better velocities towards the max end. Nothing over published data. Everything that I load, that I put on videos, is within published data. So I'm not pushing outside of what you're supposed to. This is just standard data plugged in, and I compiled which powder done the best, and that's how I developed my load for carry ammo. Now, let's talk about some of the downfalls of using reloaded ammunition in defensive manner. I know this is where it becomes a little controversial for a lot of people, is because there are some very prestigious lawyers and people high in the gun community that recommend against using carry ammo that you've loaded. And one of the big talking points is that it could come and back to bite you in the hind end if you ever go to court had you have to use that ammunition. I don't know the details of why. I believe it's somewhere along the lines of, well, you manufactured a deadly weapon, or you manufactured something designed to kill, you made it more deadly, you done this, your intent was to make it more lethal, something along those lines. And that, I'm not going to discredit that. I feel like that probably could be used against you in court, especially in today's society to where everybody is anti-gun. However, there are some pros to carrying your own defensive ammo that you've hand loaded. And for me, I can afford to shoot hand loaded defensive ammunition, whereas I can't afford to shoot the $1.50, $1.80 a round ammunition that you buy, like the HSTs and the higher end premium ammo. I can't afford to shoot that all the time. So it allows me to actually practice with exactly what I carry. I know some people can use hand loading to mimic those rounds, but again, it's not exactly what you're carrying. Two, the second perk for me on carrying hand loads is that when I'm loading them, I know I can see in the primer, I can see there's an anvil, I know the primer is seated correctly, I can see in the case and see the powder, I can feel the crimp, I can visually know that everything about that round is the way that it should be. Aside from having bad powder or bad primer compound, I know that that round has went through quality control to the utmost and will not fail. Factory ammunition, even premium ammunition, you don't know for 100% fact that there wasn't something messed up on the assembly line or that something didn't get through quality control. Now, I know that's a weak merit, but also it's a little bit weak on the lines of saying that a jury is going to convict you based on whether your load was a factory load or a hand load alone. I feel like if you go to a court case and that is the deciding factor, you probably were in a questionable shoot to begin with. I don't think that a justified shoot would come down to whether you were carrying factory ammo or hand loaded ammo. Personally, I feel like if a jury was to get involved and what you were carrying was going to be on display for the jury to see and make a decision based on your intent, I feel like probably a Punisher skull back cap or a smile wait for flash type insignia on your weapon is probably going to work against you more so than whether or not you're carrying hand-loaded ammunition. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into it here. And basically what I want to do is I want to compare the factory ammo and the hand-loaded ammo and just show you guys where they fall in line with each other and what you can do as a hand loader and what you're buying off of the shelf. So what we'll do is we'll run some through the chronograph. It may get a little bit nerdy here. I'm going to run 3 shots of each through the chronograph. I'll write the data down. We'll crunch the numbers. And if there's any differences there enough to speak of, we'll get out some gel and we'll punch them into the gel and see exactly what those numbers translate out to in a performance manner. So let's get started. All right, so I've got 3 factory 124 grain gold dots loaded up in this mag. I'm going to be shooting it from the 3913. And the reason that I'm using this gun is, even though this is geared towards a defensive manner, I didn't want to use the shortest barrel that I have, because I know a lot of people say, well, that round was meant for a duty size gun, or that round does better in a longer barrel, or whatever. So I picked one that was kind of in the middle. I can get a shorter barrel out of my safe with the 9 than this, and I can get a longer barrel out of my safe with this. So this is kind of in the middle, so that's why I'm choosing this. So we'll kind of hit the middle of the road there and see how they do. But here's some 124 grain gold dots, factory ammunition. Let's see what kind of numbers we're getting here, and then we'll move on. 1108, 1090. That one didn't record. Let me grab another round and try again, get 3 shots. All right. 1159. So I'll take those numbers down. We'll grab the hand loads and go from there. Okay, so I've got my hand loads loaded here. I believe these are loaded with BE 86. We'll get those loaded in and see where we go. $11.23, $11.62, $11.30. I believe, just from seeing that, I haven't crunched any numbers yet, but that looks a lot more consistent than the factory ammunition. So now we're going to move on to the 380 and get some numbers from that. I'm using the LCP2. This is a micro compact. This is a very small gun, but I'm not going to use a larger 380 for this test because I don't think very many people are carrying large to mid-size 380s. So we're going to use the LCP regardless. So I've got 3 rounds of the factory 90 grain Hornady XTP loaded up. They are loaded by Hornady themselves. So let's take some shots and get some numbers. $8.28, $8.48, $8.31. Let's grab some hand loads, see where they're at. All right, so I've got my hand loads in here. These again are 90 grain XTPs, just like that was in the factory, but these are hand loads. These are loaded with BE 86 as well. I really like that powder for the smaller carry rounds. Let's grab some numbers, see how it does. 907, 892, 883. Haven't crunched the numbers yet, but I'm going to say those were a little bit faster than the factory. Let's crunch some numbers and see where we're at. All right, guys, so I hope you can see these numbers well enough, but here is our factory 9mm gold dot, 124 grain. These are our 3 shot velocities. There's the average, 1,119 feet per second on the factory ammo, which comes out to 344 foot-pounds of energy. On our hand load, our 9mm, we had these 3 shot velocities, an average of 1,138 feet per second, and 356 foot-pounds of energy. Now, this average between these two is not substantial in my opinion. That is the difference from one shot to another, the difference that we have here. The energy, that's nothing major either. However, I do want to point out that there is an extreme spread here between this factory ammo and this hand load, and that goes back to what I was talking about with quality control, consistency. You have more control over that with a hand load. So you can see in these 3 numbers there's not as much of a spread. Now, like I said, the difference in the overall average velocities and foot-pounds of energy, it's moot. So we come over here to the 380. This is our 380 factory 90 grain XTP data. Here's our 3 shots, 835 feet per second average, 139 foot-pounds of energy. Come down to our hand loads, 90 grain XTP again. Here's our 3 shot velocities, 894 feet per second average. That comes to 159 foot-pounds of energy. To me, that is a borderline increase that may have some merit. It may be the difference between expanding and not expanding. It may not. I don't think it's huge, but again, you can see pretty consistent results here, which I got to give credit to the factory Hornady ammo here. It was pretty consistent as well, but we've got consistent results in our velocities. We do have more velocity than the factory, and we do have more energy than the factory ammunition. And this was substantially cheaper than this. This was substantially cheaper than this. That's kind of the point I'm making here. So as I said earlier, I don't want this to be taken as you should carry factory ammo or you should carry hand loads. All I'm doing is throwing out the options that you have, how factory ammunition and how hand loads can compare to one another. Me as a hand loader, I may produce different ammunition than someone else as a hand loader. Someone else may use different data, different powders, different bullet weights, different barrel lengths, and the data may be totally different. All I'm saying is, for me personally, I do choose to carry hand-loaded ammunition for a defensive role. To me, the pros outweigh the cons. Now, with that being said, if it ever did come down to where carrying hand-loaded ammunition caused me to get convicted, I will pay a huge price for that. So what is the risk versus reward? What kind of consequences could come from that? Who knows? Who really knows? But let's think about it in this context. The odds of you ever using your gun in a defensive manner are fairly slim. The odds of that going to court and it being dictated on whether or not you used hand loads or factory loads is even slimmer. So on a day-to-day basis, I can use my carry ammo to shoot and practice with and get familiar with that recoil, know that that bullet's going to feed, know that that exact round's going to be in that gun, and I know for a fact it's quality controlled. I know for a fact it has powder. I know for a fact the primer has an anvil. To me, those things outweigh whether or not I'm going to be risking a jury deciding solely on whether I was using hand loads or factory ammunition in my gun. Like I said, if it comes down to that, you're probably finding yourself in a questionable shoot to begin with, and it's going to be hard to get out of it regardless of what ammo you were using. That's just my opinion. Like I said, this could be a controversial video. I know some people get really heated over the don't carry hand-loaded ammunition, and that's fine. If you feel that way, that is fine. You have taken what you could possibly lose if it were to come to that, and that outweighs the pros to carrying hand loads to you. But everybody is different. This is just my opinion, one man's opinion, and everybody's going to have different opinions, and everybody's priorities are going to be different. So in today's video, I just wanted you to take away from it that, yeah, even though it's controversial on a legal ramification, possibly, hand loads can be as good or better than factory ammunition from a defensive load standpoint. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments, and that's all I'm going to have for you today. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, guys, stay tuned.